You are beautiful, so precious too. You're irreplaceable and unique, created for this intimacy, and forever
Great
we
to have you on here. It's always good to just
together.
hear from different
And I
perspectives
say
without
I
just
think
sharing with
you're
people
amazing.
what you do right now or what you're doing, what you plan on doing for 2022. Can you believe it?
Right? I
Still
know.
just
I can't
doesn't
believe that.
sound right. Something about that just, no, I'm not ready.
Right? I know. You're like, wait a minute.
Did I cross all my T's and dot all my I's? I'm not sure.
Right?
But yeah, I know, for me, I know the struggle is constantly, going to the Lord in prayer and making sure I'm keeping that consistent, and number one, keeping family at, close number two, and then, figuring out what I'm doing with my work, with what I'm doing with my ministry. This year has been challenging for me because, am I on track, Lord? I'm not getting a paycheck. What is that going to look like? Kept telling me he wants me to work and then not worry about the income yet. Now to anyone, including me, that sounds crazy. What are you talking about?
Yes.
But what
I
I've noticed is when I do that and really let go, things do happen miraculously. I've experienced miraculous money miracles. You wouldn't even believe. I won't go into my story, but yeah. So I just always encourage people to follow that word, even if other people don't believe you. Because what have we got to lose? If it's a deception, your discernment will kick right in. There'll be confirmation. You will
right.
know his sheep hear his voice. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So I think when more people recognize that and become comfortable with that, we can express it in glory and not have to kind of hide, behind a facade. That's my job, is to just be vulnerable and share truth with others, at least what I'm seeing in my spirit. And it might not be the same thing that you're seeing. So for me, it's about just sharing in spirit and truth what God is showing you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, some encouragement. Just keep pressing in and enjoy the ride.
Right. No, exactly. It's just, it's I was actually, it's funny that you say stuff like that because I think I was when was it? What is today? So it was Monday morning. I was kind of in that little bit, some of those thoughts start creeping in, and you're just like, oh my goodness, because myself too, just stepping out of my work, it's like, whoa, you're like, okay, what do you do now? And then you're looking at whatever, you're looking at your bank account and you're like, okay, I've got this, I need to pay the bills, and then it's going down and you're like, okay. So anyway, I kind of was having that, like, a little bit of thoughts, and I was like, oh no. And then I was washing dishes and I was just kind of I was overcoming that by like, okay, Lord, you're going to provide. I know you're going to provide, and then I kind of started singing. I don't really sing, but I just was like, how you're washing dishes, you're trying, anyway. So I was just, "Oh, Lord, you're my provider, provision, and trying to go in like a little tune or whatever. And then of course, his spirit fell on me and he was just like boom, and then I just started crying. I was just like, whoa. I was like his love just like wrapped around me and was like, yeah, I got you, don't worry about it. Like, I wouldn't have pulled you out if I wasn't going to take care of you. And I just was like, whoa, just like, okay. And I was able to, I had I'm going to be going to a Bible study that we have, at our church at 10 o'clock now. But anyway, so I shared with them the same thing because we're going through the book of Psalms. And I think it's funny how, he lines up everything up, and it was, I think I was reading, can't remember what chapter it was, but it was talking about singing praises, praising him all the time. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. I had an experience this morning, so it was like, I was able to tell people about that, of, provision, and singing praises, and no matter what situation we're in, because, our voices too, and worshiping and singing praises and dancing and whatever is our worshiping to him. Whoa, yeah, see, I feel that one. Okay. So thank you, Jesus. So that actually is
Yeah,
very,
that's so encouraging.
very nice, you know, how you're talking about provision, because that is something where I'm at as well, being a single mom too, and was the only source of income. I mean, of course, he provided that job for me, and that, you know, but he did tell me it's time, like it's time to move on. I anointed you for that position, but now I'm anointing you for another position or a few, you know. So
Yeah, and it's so empowering just to hear other women sharing about this, because um in this world that we live in right now, how could I say it? There's so many people, and including, I'm thinking of young college women who are so pulled in so many different directions. I'll call it theologies or ideologies, that are so far from God's thoughts. And it's sad because we as family members or friends of this next generation can see it. And at the same time, it's like we have all these empowering women who are inspiring, but yet at the same time, are we opening a door? Like, are we opening a door for this or that or the other thing? Like, I'll give you an example of someone, and she's not gonna even say like what her relation is to me, but that was struggling with something about her own identity. And I was just ministering to her from my heart. And this person um was saying, isn't that it was like that Jim, I felt like I was in that Jim Brewer comedy show, like all of a sudden, like sexist, racist, all these things started coming at me from the enemy, and I'm like, whoa, 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 that's not at all what I said. And it's like defense, defense, and all of a sudden I felt in the spirit, ooh, take a breath, let's relax, because if I let this energy in, you're going to open that door, and it's not a door I want you going down. So I
right,
said, all right, so let's just close the door on that topic. Now, does that mean I just like, to heck with her, she lives it? No, I prayed for her. And I have a real strong belief that, when the Lord tells us to close a certain door, like it could be a conversation. You're having a conversation with someone brings up a hot topic. Sometimes we have to mindfully shift
yep,
out of that topic in order to, like Paul has said it, be all things to all people. Not to say we people please, because I am so guilty of that as well. but I'm being more mindful of that lately. Just okay, so if I can't answer this in the way that she or he is going to respond to, how do I shift the conversation so that we're not divisive? Does that
right,
make sense? Okay. So yeah, so that's what I did. And I didn't, I don't think Bible thumping is the way. At least that's not what God's showing me, for my life. So that's not my calling, is not to, preach and, really tell them how they should believe, because the spirit is in us. And so it's more of like an awareness that comes out, and it's just so beautiful and glorious. There's no stopping it. Once you believe, it's like you can't unbelieve, right?
right,
Can't go backwards. So it's more like, okay, trust the spirit if there's that feeling. And I feel it in my body. Like I'll feel, okay, this is getting intense. Let's take a step back. And if it's a Christian friend or someone I could really, we might pray, we might do some work spiritually, some inner healing, but otherwise it would just be recognizing that, and then bringing up something that that person could relate to, something on their level. Brad Jerzek is one who's really good at that. He'll sit down with someone, like I've heard so many stories from Brad where he's sitting on a plane with someone engaging with like an atheist. Let's just say one of them was an atheist, talking about, and he was an atheist, also a was diagnosed Asperger's, so autistic. So he was really obsessed with rocks, and he was
ooh,
telling Brad all about rocks and geology. And I think Brad felt in the spirit to say something eventually about his where do you think those rocks came from? and God in you, and all this stuff, like, and for some reason that worked. That's all it was. And then the guy was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Whoa, that's really interesting. I'm not saying it's that easy, but sometimes it's easier than you think.
Right.
You don't have to, throw Bible verses out there at the person to get them
Right.
to, waking up to their true nature. So
It
yeah,
is.
no, it's beautiful.
It is interesting. You talk about the type of autism or Asperger's. When I was working in the property management, I had this autistic young man that would come in all the time, and one day, it was like one day I found this like Bible on the ground, and it just was like, oh, okay. So I found this Bible on the ground, I put it in my desk, and then one day the Lord told me give it to him. And I just was like, oh, and it was a half, I think it was the New Testament, so it was like Matthew all the way to Revelation. And so, and I was like, but it's not the whole thing. And he's like, it's okay, just give it to him. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I gave it to him, and then it's like totally everything shifted on him, and he just started talking about, oh, what Dad said this morning. And I just was like, whoa, I was like, okay. He's like, what Dad said this morning. And then he would say stuff like, if I was in high stress mode, he's like, Dad wants me to ask you, are you okay? And I just was like, oh man. I was just like, man. It was like, so it was almost like God used him at times to come in there, to keep me focused on him in a way, because I would just get so caught up in like work stuff, get so caught up in like not being, like, oh, hey, the Lord, so it's like he would come in at the right time when you put him there, and it just, then he would just be like, oh, are you ready for God's water? Like towards the ending, as I was leaving, and I'd just be like, I'm looking at him like, what is going on? And I was like, wow, it's like he, because of their mental state, it was like physical for him. He would be saying like, oh, the water is coming, the rain is coming. But I understood in the spirit what was happening, like, oh, he's talking, I'm like, oh, the water's coming. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. And it was just, it got more like that towards the ending. And then when God told me, okay, it's time to leave, I was like, got it. I was like, it makes sense, everything that he was saying. I mean, I am kind of sad that, I still can see him. I'm not choosing to go there, but it was like, I actually told him to, oh, I'm supposed to get a Bible for him. So I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, I didn't even get the Bible for him yet, like a full on, like he's like waiting. So, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm like, one day just, lead me. I know the address. I'll just have it sent to him. I got him a birthday gift before, so, and had it, from Amazon, sent it to him. But anyway, but it's just how you can see how the spirit moves, God's presence, how it moves just with anyone, even those that have ailments and sicknesses like that. I mean, and it's just you can even just see in the word. Who was I? Oh, I was reading a Bible, my daily Bible reading, and I think it was John. Was it John? No, Luke. I think it was Luke. It was Luke 8 and 9. I think it was about the blind man.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I think it was Luke. So anyway, and I'm reading this morning, and I'm laughing because these people don't even realize, you know what I mean? I'm like thinking like, I would be so astonished to see this happen in front of me. And even though they had the evidence of the blind man being able to see, they were like, oh no, he didn't do that. Who's this guy that? And I'm like,
Right.
and I'm like, I'm talking to myself in the morning, sitting in my, like, Jesus, like, they don't even believe you, like, and you're standing there, you know what I mean? And it just says the whole dialogue right there. Right. I was just like, I was laughing. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, they don't even believe you, and you're the very one that everyone wants to see today. You know what I mean? They had it right in front of.
They didn't recognize.
I know. I was like, oh Jesus, you went through so much.
No, it's crazy. It's like, I was thinking about Moses the other day, and because sometimes I practice tongue twisters because I'm terrible at them. And I'm also not, I haven't been, okay, let me rephrase it because God wants me to rephrase this. I am improving my public speaking skills. So because in my past I used to have incredible fear about public speaking. Like it was a literal deliverance I had to be delivered from, and I experienced a really tangible deliverance at one point at my church, a healing ministry. It was beautiful, the weight just lifted and I didn't feel that sense. Every time I'm about to talk, like even an interview like this, I would feel it like this real heavy weight. And thank the Lord that hasn't come back.
Right.
So it's like with time, I've noticed that, God even created time, right? So like in his time, we are already perfected in Christ, right? That's like a heavy pill for us to swallow. It's like, what?
Right.
How am I perfect? I don't see myself perfect. And
Right.
so, but when we start to look at ourselves and others that way, which is about forgiveness,
Right.
things start to shift in your life. Like for me, I was thinking about like my challenge with speaking because of ADHD. That was another label that got placed on me. So I too can understand like autism and everything else. And I used to teach children that were in special needs group behavioral needs, like ADHD, operant defiant disorder. And God just always places me with those kids quite often because he knows my heart. And I'm just good with them. It's just like sort of my nature. I'm just really, my whole life I've always been just really mindful of that. Plus because I struggled with it, I can relate. So that's one. And also just being in that environment, I know the struggles that they go through, and so I kind of know what to say and how to inspire them in some way.
Right.
There's all different levels of it. There's people that are very highly qualified, highly trained. I'm not highly qualified, but in the professional sense, but I do have training in it. And de-escalation is huge. Like I just find the best thing to do in those situations, if someone's getting wild up or
Right.
like hyped up about something in a negative, just like bringing it back,
Mm-hmm.
reeling them back in kind of. can
Right.
can be challenging, but that's where you really have to trust Holy Spirit. Because I mean, you can come up with some curriculum and, oh, say this or do that, but it's really about the individual, right? Like you said with the autistic boy, you knew him. You kind of really got to know him on a deeper spiritual level.
Right.
Otherwise, if I just show up, I'm the professional. I know how to handle this boy. Let me just talk. And even if you have good intentions, right? Someone like myself, I see this guy. Is he going to trust me or you? He's going to trust the person he knows, because
Right.
that's just how it is.
Right.
So I feel like, I don't know, something's got to shift in this world because right now there's a lack of trust. That's what I'm noticing, like in the communities, in the public schools, and even some of the churches, not all of them, but there's like that, especially with the teens, and that's the generation that we need to raise up as freedom warriors, peaceful
Yes.
warriors, right? So what do
Yes.
we do? Where do we go? I don't know. The Lord's got this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you say the next generation, because it's exactly, when I was going through all the different things that I was going through and was in my prayer closet doing my war room prayers and whatever,
Yeah.
like it was just like, why do I have to go through all of this, man? I was like, why, Lord? And it makes a lot of sense because technically, I am doing it for the next generation. I was fighting it so it stopped. Who am I emotional? It stopped so it wouldn't continue on after me. And if I was going to be that breaker, I was like, let it be so, Jesus. If I have to go through things that I don't want to, let it go. And even though, it was really, I did go through stuff, and I'm not saying that I am like a perfect person. Nobody's perfect, but
Oh,
it's just kind of like, doing that, it made sense because of course he told me you are the generational curse breaker in your family line. So when he told me that that made a lot of sense. All this stuff that even all the deliverance prayers and calls that I went on and books I had to read and in the word and, like disciplinary action, getting up 3 o'clock every morning for like 2.5 years, going in my closet. Like I was like, like literally like warring, like this needs to be done. I don't want this, I was just like, yeah. And so, like you said, it makes sense though, because then now it's like right here. And then now I have, the Lord has given me the blessing to be able to build for the next generation. And that's what's happening, is that what we're doing, is setting up for our children behind us and their children and their children, the blessing, that song, so it's kind of, when you speak life over your kids, when you speak life over people, it actually changes it. And that's the gift that we have from God, that we're able to do with his, Holy Spirit within us. So it's really nice. It's like, yay.
Wow. I so admire you too for just like living the dream and just stepping out in faith with your son or daughter.
My son. Yes.
Son. Yeah.
Yes.
That
Yes.
must be so challenging, but there's so many women out there that I know. I've been meeting some people on Telegram who I really want to connect you with personally. Just that I feel the Lord on this. That there's so many women who could benefit from someone with your nutrition experience and also your experience as a mom and a single mom.
Right.
Going through that walk and the challenges that come with it, with the schools, and maybe not being in alignment with everything that the schools are doing, but yet the Lord has called you to do this and why and when, and having that confidence, that bold faith. It's amazing. There's so
Right.
many people, so many women out there that really, really would benefit from ministering to them or each other, basically fellowship. So yeah, I really feel like that's the way, for me, that's the way I've seen it going, is like an international ministry, really, because there's so many people out there right now that are screaming, that feel alone, that are trapped, that feel like there's nobody there, and we
Right.
can be there for now. It's like what Jesus said, when the Pharisees were picking on him for eating with and drinking drinking wine, I think on the Sabbath. Yeah, it was on the Sabbath. He was like eating and drinking with his friends, with the disciples. And he said, well, of course, when the bridegroom is here, we celebrate.
Right.
There'll be plenty of time where you're going to be fasting and praying, but now is not the time. So time and a season for everything. Right.
Right.
So
I know.
yeah,
Even
really,
even that time they were questioning him because he healed on the Sabbath. It's like, come on. It's like, the Sabbath day. What are you going to do? Turn away somebody who wants to come to Jesus on the Sabbath day because you need to be on your Sabbath day? Like, come on. So it's like, hey, no. It's like, it's exciting to hear that, because it just shows that he still reached out to people, even though they wanted to know him, or they wanted to have healing done. So that's a good example for us. Like, whatever day, I don't know, if we have a Sabbath day that yes, we're not technically supposed to be doing like
is our Sabbath rest, right?
yeah, technically we're not supposed to be doing like like our work for whatever income base. But it's like, if Jesus said, if God tells us, like, go for it, go for it, and you can be like, oh, hey, is this what I'm supposed to be spending time with you, but is this what you want me to do right now? If he's like, yeah, go for it, because it's part of glorifying him, if that makes sense. There we go. Yeah, so it's gonna be part of glorifying him. Then yeah, I would say go for it, like do it. Like it's
No
like,
condemnation.
especially that healing, like, hello.
And there's no condemnation. Like, if somebody, sometimes I feel funny saying like, oh, I quit my job. Like, sometimes I feel like, geez, and even, my husband said that somebody said to somebody about me and blah, blah, blah. And they had a judgment about me and da, da, da. And I'm like, okay. But I understood the judgment and where it came from. Because you look at somebody and what they're doing and why they do something in me might say, geez, that person's really religious. They're really,
Right.
they think they had to sacrifice their job for God. They might not know what that person is really thinking and what that person is really experiencing. That's why I think when
Right.
Jesus said we can't judge each other, it's so, so important, because only God is a judge. He is the righteous one. He is the only one who, he's the one that judges all the hearts.
Right.
And so when people say, well, you do this for this reason, oh, you're really doing it for that reason, we just negate that. That,
Right.
you are loved, you are fully accepted under grace. If something happens, you make a mistake, he's righteous and just to forgive. And your heart, he knows your heart. So even if you make a mistake in discernment, he's there all the time. And that's what actually sin is missing the mark. It's missing, it's not like, his love is unfailing, unending. So it's not like, you make a mistake and he's turns his back. We're the ones that turn our backs. He's always
Right.
there, just coming after us over and over, because he loves us that much. So,
Right.
yeah, no, that's really encouraging. I'd love to hear more about that, and just more about how you minister, what your life is like right now, and a little bit more before we wrap it up, because I know you don't have a lot of time. We want to hear about your health, your nutrition, your plans for the future. I know you don't have it all mapped out yet, but just what that vision looks like so far, because I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah.
Well, right now, I guess in the direction, I guess for myself, as in health wise, of course, I'm doing doTERRA essential oils, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, business, MLM, blah, 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 and I just kind of, I look at them, I go, well, my mindset has changed, of course, since, when we come to Christ, our minds change. And so I look at it as the Lord wants me to use this to help, minister to those, especially, in the Word, it tells us that we need to treat our bodies as a temple. It's a gift that has been given to us, and how are we supposed to, you know, the gift that He's given us, we need to cherish it. And if we're not doing that, we're not honoring God, and we're not honoring the body and the gift that He's given us. So this is my viewpoint now when I talk to people. It's like, yes, I do need a source of income, but my mindset is changed, because He's like, this is what you're going to use to start off yourself, and then there's other things that are coming around it, you know what I mean? But this is going to help people, to teach them about their health and their body, because how are we technically, say like if you're a preacher, okay, say like if you're a preacher, you need to be traveling, you need to evangelize or whatever. Like, if your body is not intact, it's going to fall apart. And if you're not eating the right foods, if you're always going to McDonald's or whatever, I'm not downing McDonald's, but if you're not doing the certain things to help, then you're not going to be able to maintain your body, and you're not going to be able to do the work of the Lord that the Lord has given you, or your calling or your destiny or whatever. So it's kind of what I'm doing is I'm teaching people. I listen to them, and then I'm like, Lord, when I do this, whatever comes to me when they're talking, I just lay it out for them, and I go, this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to lay everything out for you, and you do what you want to do, because this is what I'm doing right now. And if they're a Christian, of course, I go, this is what I'm laying out for you, and this is what the Lord is wanting. But you choose what you want to do, because I'm not going to force anything. I'm not that type of person to be like, you have to have the product because I want your money. No. I mean, even though it's good, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I lay out, because my focus is the journey on what it's going to do with you, and how the Lord is working through me to help you. So it's kind of, and then if every now and then they need like prayer or something, of course I'm going to pray for them. What's really interesting is that I had an encounterment with my upline. She lives in Copenhagen. I don't know where that's at. Anyway, she lives across the world. And so, I was able to minister to her. I was able to talk about the Lord, and she's like, "That's so good that you're doing that. I really admire that of you, because we don't really." She said something about here. It's not as, it's kind of like contained, like, you know what I mean? And I just was like, oh, okay. So she really, and then she's like, oh, Bible in the oil. She's like, I think you would do really good with Bible in the oils. And I'm like, oh, okay. And in the way, I kind of was like, oh, whatever. But I was like, the Lord told me, like, I'm using her to tell you what you should be doing. I'm like, oh, I was like, okay, so it's interesting how the Lord kind of puts things together. I was able to pray over her and our business. So it's really it was really nice because I can minister to her, and then, maybe eventually we'll get her. I don't know where she is in her spirituality level yet,
Yeah.
but one day I'll do the Lord, the sinner's prayer with her and bring her to Jesus. Or not me, the Lord will, when the Lord prompts me, excuse me, when the Lord prompts me to do that. At that time, it was just praying over her in the business. So I'm excited for that. And then, so where I see myself for 2022 is, I'm hoping, maybe by the beginning of January or February, that I can get that stable income in. That's my goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's what me and the Lord have been discussing. I'm like, Lord, you have to do something, because
Exciting, it's nerve-wracking. It's
yeah, I'm like, I have to the end of the year of stuff saved, and once January hits, I'm kind of like, well, however he's going to provide. I know he's going to provide.
Flying high, but then you'll be
I know he's going to provide. He's done it before. He's done it in the past. So I'm holding on to that. I'm like, you've done it before. You're going to do it again. And yeah, I see. He's like, yes, I am. So
trips.
Right. And
happening that you won't even expect, you'll be just expected pleasure from partners, all of a sudden the joy of the Lord fills you, and there you are with this partner. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing this. And before you know it, it's God's business. We're doing God's business. As what Jesus said, I'm only going about my Father's business.
Exactly.
So yeah, wow, yeah, I see that with you.
Yeah, so that's the business, the oils part, and I've got a couple other things going on, like the dance ministry at our church, and
now what's the dance ministry?
So the worship dance ministry is something that the Lord has put back into my life, because I've had dance training. I was dancing for 10 years professionally, and then I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that when I came to Oregon and I got into a relationship and all that kind of stuff. But I just was like, no, I don't need to do it anymore. I'm good. I've done it. I'm happy where I'm at now. But then, of course, he put that back in front of me, and he's like, okay, now I want you to dance for me, and I'm just like, how do I do that? Because when you're a dance performer, you're a performer, and you dance for the group and you dance for yourself. And so, it took about a year to get where I'm at now. I finally I know the difference, and he's still teaching me, still teaching me the difference of, dancing for me rather than dancing for, an audience or yourself, because it's, when you do performance, it's like you have to awe the audience, you know what I mean, with what you do. But when you are dancing and worshiping for the Lord, you're ministering through your dance, and having him take over and having him glorified, and people's got to see him. Yeah, people's got to see him. Yeah, people's got to see him through you while you're dance. So it's really interesting where he's got me there, and he's got me. I seem to be thrown in things that I have to like set in stone, like set in something, or set a system going. When I was in my workplace, I was thrown in an office that was so chaotic. The Lord used me to place a system in there. So I placed the system in there, and now he pulled me out, because he's like, you're done, you erased the system. Now he's got me here, setting my own system at home with my business, and then setting a system in the dance ministry, at the church. And so I was like, man, I was like, okay. He's like, well, that's why, I put you in these things, because it's for you to rely on me to show me through you, and I just was like, man, you know, yeah, it's so like, wow. And so there's that. And then I was led to do this other thing. I'm like, Lord, is this what you want me to do? And so it's basically an organization of empowerment, how you're talking earlier, a women of empowerment, women in the community, and it's an organization. So that's fairly new yet. I just got introduced to it. I just jumped in it because it was actually something that I wrote while I was in my prayer closet, the war room, of things I wanted to do, and that was one of it. So everything kind of lined up. He showed me, hey, this is what you wrote, remember? And so now it's getting, and I was like, okay. So it's stuff like in the community, empowering women, and having, you could talk about God in it and all that kind of stuff, because the person in charge of it is, a godly woman as well. So that's something new for me. And I'm just like, well, you're just getting all these things thrown my way. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, that's why you need to come to me. Like you were saying, I don't know. I think it was you saying Matthew 6:33. Anyway, maybe it was somebody else, but anyway, it was remembering Matthew 6:33, when we keep seeking him first, everything's going to come. So I've been making a point to continually just like, hey Lord, I'm coming here reading. And then of course when I read this morning, Luke 8 and 9 and about him and what things was happening, I was cracking up, because I was like, wow. And then it just makes things a lot better, when you start with him and his presence in your day. Everything else just kind of goes. So that's where I'm going to be, in 2022, is pretty much just rebuilding stuff, building things up, rebuilding my business, rebuilding the dance ministry, restoration, I guess, restoration in my life, the things that have been slipped out from underneath me. And
to ask you too, do you have a account on Telegram?
I do not. There's so many there's so many different places that I'm trying to manage. So I'm like, I don't want to get myself into too many things. Even what is that other place? Instagram. Like I've had a couple of people try to get me on that, and I'm like, oh, man.
No, it's like, ugh, I know, but once you do it, I know, I don't want to go. I know.
Yeah, I was like, I've got what is that, like Signal, and then I tried WhatsApp, and I'm like, there's so many. Like,
it's too much, but yeah, I don't know. There's this other ministry. It's so funny because the Kainos education. I found a woman who is Kainos Life Ministry, and I'm like, she's right in Connecticut. She lives like an hour away, and I'm like, what? So the Lord brought us together. So now we're like, whoa, partnership. So what I'm thinking, and she told me about StreamYard, and I guess you can StreamYard it once you start going live, which I'm not doing yet. As you could see, I'm still a little nervous about that. I do it occasionally, but I usually end up messing stuff up. But eventually I'll get it right. I'm still learning. There's a lot of learning going on in this technology world.
Right.
I'm not about to get a chip in my hand,
Right.
It's not that bad. I can figure it out. So for the live streaming, you can actually, it'll live stream to Facebook and Instagram and this and that. So that's something you can look at in the future when you have more establishment going on. But another thing, the reason I mentioned Telegram is there's a guy, really getting to know him pretty well. I wouldn't say 100% trust him, but the Lord keeps bringing me back to him. His name is Bill Gibson, and he was a quadriplegic. He has like proof of it. And he's a Christian, and he got healed. And his whole ministry is healing, and it's similar to you because he has a lot of knowledge about essential oils, and not as much on essential oils actually. it's more about homeopathic remedies.
Oh, okay.
So he is the one that helped me when my husband had COVID. He told me how to make quinine. I didn't know how to make it. It's like hydro. It's basically like that stuff Trump was taking. What is it? Hydrox. I can't even think of it.
Right.
Anyway, one of the things,
Right.
not ivermectin, but a different thing for curing
Okay.
COVID. It's basically grapefruit peels and lemons, and you just
Yeah.
put it in water, boil it up, let it stay there simmer for hours, few hours, and then it can actually stay for days in the fridge, and that's how you make quinine, if I'm saying it right. And
Right.
I just gave my husband like a teaspoon every 2 hours, and his fever went away, everything subsided in a couple of days. He was fine. And even we did it. I drank it. Even my daughter, it was like fun to drink it because it was really hard to do. We made it like a game. Like, let's see if we can do this. It's not very tasty, but it's not bad. It's God's gift, that's his medicine.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and there was other things he's taught me too. Reason I mention it too is because I just felt led to mention his name, but the only way you could contact him, I'm pretty sure, is his website or Telegram, because he doesn't go on social media. He's very anti all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he really, but I'll tell you right now, a lot of his theory, I don't know if it would align with your theory, but about this COVID stuff is more aligned with like 5G and stuff. But for some reason, like, the Lord for me is telling me, like, because I don't believe what he believes, but I do resonate with him on other levels, because there's just so much, you know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily believe like 5G is like a tool the enemy's using to destroy life on earth or something, and that's an extreme. He might not believe that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like
Right.
5G fear that's out there, like, I don't know, the Lord has just rested my heart on it. Like, I'm not too worried about it. But, at that being said, there might be some truth in it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what the Lord is showing me about
Right.
him, and he's telling me, like, this guy does know his stuff. He did cure him from being a quadriplegic.
I
And I
believe it.
mean, the guy was like hearing voices. He was completely what he thought was schizo. He thought he was losing his mind, but he
Right.
was convinced, and he'll tell you this. That's why I could say it. That
Mm-hmm.
he tells everybody he was convinced that was because of radiation poisoning, toxicity from, well, 5G and everything else. Now, normally I would say, "Whoa, run from the hills! This guy's nuts." But the Lord said, "No, no, no! Trust this guy, because he knows a lot about medicine and a
Right.
lot about my medicine, my holistic medicine, and the pharmaceuticals are not not the path for me that God wants me to go on." So I'm like, all right.
Right.
So I totally honor and respect anyone that's doing the work of the Father, whether or not it aligns with what I'm doing. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you're working for the enemy. I mean, it would be blatantly obvious. But as you're following God's law, you're loving on people, you're trying to heal, you're doing the work. He's gonna honor that, even if it's not 100% right. Like, even these doctors who truly believe that they're healing people, I believe there's supernatural healing. I believe in angels. I believe it all. That, like, God's supernatural power, and I just declare that right now, is
Yes.
so much stronger than the enemy. So no matter what the enemy is trying to do in those hospitals or anywhere else, love will always prevail.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you're talking about, I think I was talking to somebody this weekend, and I was telling them, it is cold season, cold and flu season, and whatever, COVID season. But anyway, I there is something that I kind of came up with, and it may sound very crazy, but it's natural, you know what I mean? And it actually has worked, and it could be
Sure.
some,
Yeah, we want to
you
hear.
know what I mean? And it was, we have an essential oil called On Guard, which is a protective blend, and then oregano, and we all know that oregano is very strong. So I'm not, I don't recommend it, but like if you're, absolutely trying to get some sort of emergency something down, I call it like the natural antibiotic, and I kind of put it in a shot glass. I have a shot glass, and then I do the shooter, and it's like a drop of oregano, and then like a couple drops of that on guard, and then I just kind of, chase it. I mean, I just kind of put it
Now,
back,
I
and
have a,
it is.
I have a question before you keep going. I just have a question about oregano. All I know about oregano is I put it on my spaghetti. Like I know the little oregano, it's like an herb. It's like little pieces of, right?
Right.
So you can put it in a
Well,
dropper.
there is an essential oil
Oh,
that, for oregano, and then the essential oil for On Guard, which is a
oh, okay.
protective blend. Yes, and the protective blend has a mixture of different things in it. I believe there's like cinnamon and orange and some other things in there, but so I shoot that, and yes, oregano is not really recommended to do this, but you can. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to be like crazy, like maybe like myself. But anyway, I,
Dandelions.
and it
Dandelions
does
are
burn. It does burn your throat, but it
awesome.
works. You know what I mean? It burns your throat. You can always chase it with water, juice, coffee, whatever. And so it's like I've actually had maybe one or two other people have tried it with me, and they said, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, and they tried it and they're like, well, it does burn, but it works. You know what I mean? So that's something like emergency wise, like, of course, nobody wants to get sick, and they're like, no, there's no time to get sick right now. I'm doing all these things, whatever. And I'm like, well, there's this. If you want to try this, you can do that. But of course, our main thing is we want to maintain, our health and our immune system. So before you get to that, of course, you want to like maintain it, take your vitamins, whatever, eat good, sleep well, get the right rest, that kind of thing. But, as you're talking about, you're saying your husband COVID, and then your Bill suggested that. That's something that I suggest to people too, is like, hey, that's a kicker. It might be gone depending on your body and how it takes it. My body, of course, it took like a day and a half, and it was like, it was gone. And I was like, whoa, that's because sometimes your body can be receptive to it. Sometimes your body's like, whoa, what is that? What's going on? It all depends on your own body. So everybody's body is different.
I'm hoping I want to get another, because I was around the COVID, but we have certain family members that are elderly, and I want them to feel 100% comfortable with me being there for Thanksgiving. So I got the antibody test, but it came back negative. So I'm like, oh man, like I wanted it to be positive.
Right.
So I'm sort of in that waiting period. Should I wait, or should I, maybe I just didn't wait long enough, because we had COVID in our family. My husband, my daughter technically had it. So, but I
Are
guess
you
not sure. What do you
so
think?
are you doing anything to build your immune system right now? Are you taking anything, or not really?
A little bit. Like I take zinc. I take kelp because my thyroid. I take kelp, which helps, and fish oil. Uh, yeah, fish oil. Vitamin D3. Large amounts of that in the winter time, because it helps with my seasonal, I don't want to say depression, but seasonal, transitional sadness. Sometimes it is really overbearing sometimes. So I need to take D3 for that. But yeah, just pretty much that's it, I think. Yeah.
Well, if you are interested, we could, I can kind of set up a call or something to
Definitely.
to
Yeah.
discuss that, because
Yeah.
like I said, it's just around the corner, the season, and we everyone who, like I was saying, I suggest for God's people that we do need to build ourselves up, because he wants us to work for him. If
Fair.
we're not ready for it, it's like our body's gonna go peach. I'm not saying I'm perfect either. I'm like I said, I'm trying to schedule myself to like, hey, get up, do this, eat right away, before you start your day, instead of eating after you start doing 50 calls and whatever. Anyway, but anyway, but because what I would suggest is, of course, those vitamins, because that kind of covers everything. That kind of helps to build your immune system, your bone health, your bone structure. And then we do have those On Guard soft gels, which I have been using to build my immune system. No, I don't have it. It's over there. Ikaika, can you pass me?
Well,
Little
I'll
man,
make sure that I put
just
your
really fast.
website. I'll put your website link. Make sure you send it to me, and I'll put that on the once I have this all
Oh, okay.
downloaded and on YouTube. I'll put it on my YouTube channel. So
Yeah. So what I'll do is we can I'll send you a link for the health consultation with you as well. And then if anybody else, I guess you're putting this on YouTube. If anybody else wants a health consultation, a free health consultation, sometimes when I go over these questions with them, they're just like, oh wow, I never even really thought about that. Like example, like how much water do you drink? You know what I mean? And they're just like, today I had somebody like, well, I don't drink water during the winter. I drink tea. Does that count? And I'm like, well, we're talking about straight up water. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So anyway,
what do you think about distilled water? Drinking it. What's your theory on that? I've heard different things, and some people swear by it, like no, it's the best way to go, and the mainstream will tell you no, it's completely bad, and you're not.
Well, it's either or, you know what I mean? I kind of, for myself, I do filter out my water. I do have a filter, and that is more cleaner, because sometimes like we have whatever comes out of the pipe in our water, and it's like you don't know what happens when it's coming out of the pipe. But anyway,
well, I'm talking about rainwater. Like if you rainwater, supposedly distilled water is rainwater, but I wouldn't trust all those bottles in the store. I mean, you don't know.
Right. That's similar. That's kind of like a touchy subject, or not touchy, but kind of like it's totally up to the person, each person.
I would think.
You know what I mean? Like I don't really down that. I just kind of same with what I do. I just kind of lay out things. That's totally your choice and your body and what you put in there. But of course, this is what the Lord says. You know what I mean? So it's kind of,
I was curious.
but I do have a friend that has done, I don't know if you ever heard of that Kagan water. Have you ever heard of the Kagan water?
No.
And it's like, it's pretty much, it's filterized water. It's alkalinity. I can't even think of the word.
Alkaline.
But yeah, alkaline. And it flushed everything. I came across somebody who was talking to me about that. Oh, this water and all this stuff comes out of your body. And I'm like, oh, is that the Kagan water? And they're like, yes. I'm like, I did that before and I loved it, but it was like you have to connect it to your sink, and it's like it was a large amount of money. And I was like, well, when I get there, I'll get that. You know what I mean? I was just kind of, although it's something that I do want to do, I was like, well, that's kind of like a huge investment. And yes, it is, investing in your health, and it will do. And I'm like, well, in due time, I was like, Lord, I want that, so eventually it'll come. But it was like water wise, it's like that is something just kind of, however you take it, however each person takes the water. So
beautiful. Yeah. Well, we just about hit that time. I got to pick up my daughter. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your heart and your ministry, and just sharing a little bit of your testimony, where you are. I look forward to doing this again sometime down the road to see where the Lord brings you. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm honored and thankful that you were wanting to have me here. I just like to share what the Lord's doing.
Maybe one day we'll meet in person. My husband's like really interested in going to Oregon to meet his friend out in Portland, and he wants to do take us out on a big fishing trip, and because I guess there's a lot of what's it called? I'm trying to think. Not salmon. I can't think of the name now. There's a certain type of fish that's in Oregon that we can't get here. I can't think of what it is now off the top of my head, but you got good fish in there. We have good fish in here, but there's different
Right.
types and all that. My
Right.
husband knows more anyway.
Freshwater, saltwater.
Yeah, yeah. Is
Right?
that your son in the background there?
He said,
What's
he
his
said,
name?
he said, is it freshwater or saltwater fish?
I think it's freshwater,
Freshwater.
just at the lakes. Because my daughter is 6 and she loves fishing. She's
So
obsessed.
what is the, is it, it's not trout, is it?
No, it's steelhead. Steelhead.
Steelhead.
There's some
Okay.
really good steelheads out there, and we can't catch them here. We get some
Okay.
catfish from time to time, but
Okay.
yeah. So how old's your son again?
10.
10. Oh, okay. He's a little older. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
God bless you. I'll say hi. Hi. I don't know. Peekaboo. I see you. Nice.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Like I said, I guess I'll send you that link for the
Sounds good. Yes, do.
help stuff.
Please.
All right.
Madly
All right,
in love
have a good
from
one.
the very
Okay, all right, have a good day.
start, and forever we belong together.